Scotland actually has three separate claims to the right of self-determination. And bear in mind, the right of self-determination is only the right to decide. It doesn't mean you're automatically independent. It means you have a right to decide your own future without being contested. So the first right of self-determination consists in the fact that multiple prime ministers and officials of the British state have categorically, including Keir Starmer back in 2020, have categorically said that the Scots have a right to decide to go it alone. That they have a right to independence if they want. In international law, because the Brits don't have a written constitution, this becomes a constitutional principle if it has been said long enough and often enough by representatives of the state. Prime ministers speak on behalf of the state. Courts, like the Supreme Court, speaks on behalf of the state. They're considered to be state organs. So now, in international law, Scotland has been established as having that right. When David Cameron agreed to an opinion poll that he called a referendum, he agreed in principle to put a mechanism in place to allow that right. He didn't follow up. He didn't allow the international standards. Nonetheless, that precedent is there. So that's one. Number two, the British state claims that it's founded on the Treaty and Acts of Union. That's its authority. It said that most recently in its submission to a parliamentary report published in February this year. Its constitutional foundation, that means its authority, is the Treaty and Acts of Union. Well, the Treaty and Acts of Union have something called a condition precedent. Basically means the union is conditional. What's the condition? It's a very old, absolutely irrelevant act, 1706, Act of Presbyterian Faith, Preservation of Presbyterian Faith, which lists the claim of right as part of what has to be ratified, along with the Articles of the Union. Claim of right gives the people of Scotland unequivocally the right to remove a government that no longer serves the interests of the people. Very specific about the violations that cause the government to cease to be legitimate in Scotland, but it very clearly shows that the sovereignty of the nation of Scotland lies with the people of Scotland. Cannot possibly lie with Westminster. So either, and that condition is there, claim of right is still there, and we still have that right, or there's no union. There's no British state, because precedent comes before, underpins, makes it a condition. Without it, there's no union. With it, we have the right to leave. That's international law, it's treaty law. And finally, the right of self-determination for a people who have been made a dependency, that's a colony to the European, by a larger state, is absolutely entrenched. It's a fundamental principle of international law. Does that apply to Scotland? Absolutely. British state has said Scotland is not a dependency, that's a colony, because we have a partnership with the UK is a voluntary partnership. We've all heard that. Voluntary partnership requires an agreement. The agreement is the Treaty and Acts of Union. And hey, guess what? This underpinning authority of the British state has never been given effect. We don't have a treaty. And because we don't have a treaty, in other words, we don't have a partnership agreement, we're not a partner, we can only be a dependency. And that means that under international law, treaty law, Scotland has a right to decolonize. Not secession, not to fight for a remedy to the way the British state has been treating us. A fundamental right to decolonization. And that's what we're doing in Nicaragua, because the vast majority of the international community does not know that Scotland is a dependency. It has no idea that the United Kingdom is a fraud. It has no idea that Scotland is not part of a unitary state. Once that has been clearly established, everything changes. The whole game changes. So everything hangs basically on the ability of the British state to hoodwink the international community, and Liberation Scotland is here making sure they can't succeed any longer. And then having that formally recognised that Scotland has this right to self-determination. Once that happens, that doesn't make us independent overnight. What it does do is it clears the path. No more Section 30, no more Westminster Commission, no more Westminster interference in the right of Scots to decide their future. It's a way, simply a way to clear the road ahead. And after that, it's up to us.